One day I won't be sick. All right.
Randall and his Banaka over there. Got to have fresh breath for the mic. That's what I always think you're spraying in. I forget you have that like throat coat. I was like doing a little, let me get some little Banaka in here.
Having to use that way too much.
Okay, cool. You guys ready?
Yes.
No.
Hey everybody, welcome to Pursuing Pixels. I almost did this is episode number. Okay, here we go.
Episode number holiday edition.
Hey everybody, welcome to Pursuing Pixels. My name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with Randall Nolery.
Hey everybody.
DJ Mandolini.
Yo.
And John Hines.
Hello, hello.
And we are back for a slightly different episode than normal this week. We're going to do a little bit of a 2019 wrap-up. I know we haven't been around for the full year of 2019, but we've still talked about a ton of video games.
Yeah,
It's our debut year.
Yeah. So I think we're going to kind of take a moment to kind of each highlight or champion a game that we've talked about over the course of the year that we really love and kind of want to champion. And then we're going to also make a New Year's resolution for a game that we're going to actually force ourselves to play.
Heck yeah.
That way maybe has been part of our backlog or just something we've been meaning to pick up or
accountability.
Whatever. Yeah, and then speaking of accountability, we're going to throw a new little segment at the end of the episode here and throw the ball in DJ's court, but we'll save that for the end of the episode here. And and I'll kick us off here with my game of the year, which is actually we talked about on the first and second episodes, which if I'm being honest, don't go back and listen to those. We're still figuring things out.
This is your new first and second episode.
But yes, but we did talk about, I think, my favorite game that I've played over the course of this podcast, or at least really high up there. I loved, stuff like Celeste and some of these bigger games. Nobody needs me to tell them to go play Celeste. And probably nobody needs me to tell them to play anything. But but what I will say is Octahedron, I really love 2D platformers, and this game has it's like a really I thought pretty cool, just super neon aesthetic. It's not something that I'm always really into, but it just fully embraces the kind of EDM music and the aesthetic to match. And
yeah.
I did appreciate that it has a little more of a vertical scrolling, element to it. You're kind of climbing up these levels more, or maybe venturing down or going all the way to the bottom and coming back up. But it's more of that than scrolling to the right and left, almost exclusively that. And just some really well crafted, puzzle platforming arcade type stuff where there's tons of collectibles in the levels. There's tons of you're basically this character that you can just jump and then hold down a button to surf and kind of have a little hoverboard that you can zoom along on. And I don't know. There's just something about this game that it's a game that I picture, and DJ's giving me the look because I know he didn't get as sucked into this game as I did.
Recommendation, man.
Well, I want to hear your thoughts though, because I feel like we have a lot of overlap. We both love Celeste. We have a lot of overlap when it comes to especially these 2D platformers. But Octahedron, I just loved every single aspect about that game. There's nothing that could make that game better to me.
And I guess I didn't really have any problems with the game aside from the fact that I think that the verticality slowed things down a little bit, but I guess I didn't
agree with that.
I didn't have any fuck yeah, I didn't have any of those sweet moments.
I will say there is something to be said, we talked about Shovel Knight last week or a couple weeks ago, and it's I appreciate each of these levels has a pretty distinct visual flair to it, and Octahedron is pretty static. They're throwing new enemies or new obstacles into the mix, but it's this same neon kind of minimalist aesthetic throughout the entire game. And even the music, which I do is pretty repetitive, pretty redundant. So that is something that's maybe a small gripe, but I just think it plays the control, the physics of it just feel great. And it felt like when I would solve a puzzle, a lot of times it'll have a puzzle that'll you'll have to go off the screen or break a block that seem you can actually go a little bit to the right into this secret room on this level.
Oh, that's cool.
And it always felt cleverly placed. I felt clever and awesome when I would accomplish those things. Just like, oh man, I found this secret. Like every little thing in the collectible flowers that are, even though I was just mentioning hidden stuff, it's like a lot of stuff that's just precariously placed. It's like, I know I mentioned that about like the Mario games where there's like the 3 hidden coins in the level. Like I always like when they're like just difficult to get. I don't want to get a coin that, I just had to jump against every wall in this ghost house to find which one that isn't a wall.
Yeah.
That's not fun to me. I really get annoyed with that. So like, I really appreciated that this game, although there are a few of those, I think there were like some hidden ones, but it always felt like it was in an area, like it would be invisible, but you'd be like, what's up with that area? There's something in the why is that area hard to get to and there's nothing there?
Yeah.
And like you'd get there, there's an invisible little flower collectible piece, but it just has all those like arcade high score chasing. There's all kinds of different, like I love, like we were talking about like how we love making lists, and it's like the game itself just has like this stat sheet that's like, how did you beat it? Did you beat it with making or not doing a certain number of jumps, or doing a certain number of jumps or less, or beating it in a certain number of time, or beating it without taking a hit?
Give me those
like
statistics.
All kinds of different. I just really, really am a sucker for that stuff. And just the way it was implemented into the menus and the design. I love this game. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm going to hyperbolize a little, but I think it was hands down my favorite game I played this year of any game.
Nice.
So
I do think you're hyperbolizing.
That's not your favorite
style,
game, Kevin.
That is my style. It's my favorite game of all time, actually. I'm just going to go right ahead and say that. No, but it's a really fun game.
Freeze, get out of here. It's Octahedron.
And this is another game, though, that I had kind of heard about. It was on Steam and on other platforms, and then it finally came to the Switch.
I mean, it was like January that it came out, wasn't it?
I think so,
You've been pumped about it the whole year.
Yeah, so. I plan on going back to it at some point. Like it's one of those that I just feel like I'll have an itch to play it again. So
did you beat it?
I did. Not every single thing, but I sometimes leave those. Yeah, I sometimes like to leave that. Like, I didn't get every collectible, but now I have an extra incentive to not just want to replay it again, but like farm for those last couple things I missed or whatever. So, but yeah, Octahedron. And again, I talked about those on episode 1 and 2. We'll link those in the show notes. So, but yeah, Randall, why don't you lead us off with your or not lead us off, but tell us about your recommendation for the year.
I will do so. So my recommendation for the year is not actually a game that came out this year, but I played it this year, and that is Blossom Tales: The Sleeping King. I love this game. I love it so much. It's an action RPG. It's very much spiritually related to the retro top-down Zelda games. It's definitely their inspiration. But the press kit that FDG Entertainment made for this, or Castle Pixel is the developer too, but their press kit says it's a delightful mix of Zelda and The Princess Bride, and I think that's a pretty good way of summing that up pretty quickly. The narrative aspect where there's a grandpa telling a couple of grandkids like the story of it, and that every so often as you get into a new area or dungeon, he just says like, and then the evil wizard Crocus, shout out Crocus, love you Crocus.
The raw deal, man.
Yeah, he did. He got a raw deal. I'm going to stick by that and reinforce that here. But yeah, he'll just say like, the evil wizard Crocus is growing his power or something like that. And like, oh, wait, Grandpa, that's like too scary. Or, they'll have like little back and forths as you're kind of playing through the game. And it never is like super intrusive. It always, at least to me, kind of adds to the cuteness and the vibe and just kind of the laid back vibe of this Zelda-like that I think I like maybe better than any of the top-down Zelda games.
I'm with you, and I didn't play as much as you guys did, but it just, again, I'm all about, we talked about Shovel Knight last week. I'm all about not wasting my time with video games, and like this just kind of like ushers you through the Zelda experience. Like I was playing, we talked about many weeks ago, but we talked about Link's Awakening, and there's like so many like very specific, you got to talk to this person and get this item and this and that. And there is very that in Blossom Tales, but it's like, it's just like chance almost, or just trial and error, where like Blossom Tales, I felt like I was always making progress every time I played that game.
Absolutely.
And I really appreciated that, especially for a game, or at least a genre of game that can be a little more open-ended.
Totally. And it still has those open-ended aspects to like the way the map's designed. You can go off and find secrets, and boy did I. Like I think I found most secrets, but there's still like a general story path that it's carrying you forward on. And if you just want to do that, this is a game you'd probably beat in 10 hours or less, but I spent 15-ish hours and I loved every minute of it. And gosh, I hope they make another one at some point, because this game clicked with me so hard. I like the magic system. I love the puzzles, like these floor puzzles they had. I'll bring that up again.
Yeah, those floor tile puzzles were really awesome. Like I think they were all done like you couldn't retrace your steps, right? Like you had to like touch every tile without touching it a second time, basically.
Yep. And it's just like it's a game that you can generally kind of play at your own pace. Like obviously it's an action RPG, so there are elements where you're having to battle foes and sometimes a little bit tougher foes, but it doesn't take you too long to get used to the gameplay stylings here, where there's not so many buttons in play that it ever felt too crazy to me. So yeah, I just would really recommend it. Even in the bosses are fun and varied, and there's even some like bullet hell things happening in the way that they attack you.
Yeah, I love that.
Different fun things going on here.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, we talked about these episodes, we talked about this game at some pretty old episodes as well, back on episodes 7 and 8.
Yep.
Which again, our early episodes are
those are
not
late
the
enough
best.
that you can go back.
I don't know about number 8. I remember being pretty drunk on that one, so I don't know that that's the best one to start off with. But yeah, Blossom Tales is something we all played. What, DJ and John, do you have any thoughts to add to that at all? Or I know we all were pretty into this one, I think. So
I agree that it's like, a Zelda game that cuts out unnecessary stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually didn't play this game.
Oh yeah, this is before John was on the podcast, man.
But he took a glance at it and was not a fan.
That's because he wasn't holding the controller.
No,
he was.
Oh, you were playing. When you said took a glance, I thought you just maybe watched DJ play some, but
no, it was fun. It was good.
Okay.
Dang. Well, I also really enjoyed
hold
the
him
music.
back.
Yes. Yeah, the music is great, even though it is very Zelda inspired. Again.
Of course,
but the game is very like cheeky about its like homage to the Zelda series. Like it doesn't feel like it's just a Zelda clone. Like it feels like it knows what it is.
Absolutely.
And it, again, like you mentioned, the tone with like the grandpa telling the story, like it strikes that right tone to me.
Yep,
so
it knows that going in, it never takes itself too seriously, and it just works.
Yeah, and I didn't play enough of this one. You talking about it now, I'm definitely going to go back and dip back in. So
please do, so we can talk about it more.
Yeah, let's do it. So DJ, why don't you talk about the game you want to champion for this year?
Well, like Randall, my game's a clone. My game is 20XX, a Mega Man clone.
Another very good clone.
Yes,
we've talked about it in episodes 9 and 24. I think it wasn't until around that 24th episode that I'd gotten around to playing it, and
yeah,
dude, I got so sucked into this game. It's a pretty agile 2D platformer with shooting with guns. But this is one of the few games that after I beat it, I was compelled to play it again.
I was just going to say that. Like, usually with these roguelikes, even it's almost like you beat them and then I don't want to play them anymore. It's like, we already know what happens. But like 20XX just feels so good.
Yeah. And it's got 4 different characters you can play with. They all, play a little differently. And I don't know. It feels good. I don't know.
It feels amazing. I mean, it's one of the few, I don't know. I feel like a lot of times these games that have procedural generation, and I do think they seem like they're chunks of levels that are built and then kind of strung together. It's not totally random. But I watched DJ play some of the tougher difficulty modes, and they were throwing him level layouts that were nothing like I had seen.
Wow.
And I really appreciate that a lot of the challenge in the game does come from the platforming and the levels and not just from the bosses. A lot of times the bosses are the easier part of the level. Not always. They are tough too.
It was usually the level that I was most,
struggling
anxious
with.
about. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think that's the case with like, with something like Dead Cells, or I can't think of like Cave Blazers. That's not true. I died a ton in the levels of Cave Blazers, but like, I don't know. It felt different to me for some reason. I appreciated that.
Like you get to the end of a level, you fight a boss, and then you get to choose which level you'll go to. And it's, you're picking which boss you'll fight. But the way I played it, I was just like, which areas, which zones do I want to be the hardest at the end? Like, which do I think I can handle at their most intense? And I kind of played that way, not based off bosses necessarily.
Yeah.
To reiterate, I guess, how challenging those levels got on hard mode, which at this point it's like, that's the way I have to play it now. Like, I can't play it on normal now. Like, hard mode is just so good.
Yeah, I need to play more of that on hard mode. I still haven't beaten this game, but
me neither.
Unlike what I was just saying, like we're like, oh, DJ beats a game and I'm not interested anymore. But that couldn't be further from the truth with 20XX, and obviously wasn't even the truth for him having beaten it, because that can be kind of a wall when you beat one of these roguelikes. Like, all of a sudden you're just like, well, what else am I supposed to do with this game? I don't know, because a lot of it feels like it's built in, like the struggle is supposed to be part of the experience of like, oh, I'm leveling up, or I'm getting new abilities, or I'm getting new items and new buffs or perks, and now I'm powerful enough to beat it. But this game feels like if you had a lucky run or the right string of options or whatever, like you could beat it on your first try, I think. It's hard. I'm not saying it's easy to do, but like, I don't think you need to have played and like unlock all these things to make it easier.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate as well. It feels like I'm in complete control. Like, there are some elements of chance, but I'm still in complete control of like how things shake out.
Yeah. Well, it's also nice to have the option to turn off kind of those like, upgrades. Like, you can upgrade your starting health or energy, as you gain more and more nuts, I think, are the resources, or chips or whatever they are. But like, I chose to, just go from scratch, essentially. Just like, I'll unlock these items that I can run into in my runs, but I'm not going to start out with any, updated stats, and that added a nice little
even
bit of
more
tension.
Challenge. Yeah.
Get on it.
All right, I'm gonna both hard mode, but I probably should just try to beat this, because I haven't even unlocked any of the other characters. I have 2, but not the other 2.
Get the other ones. And you should go to Spotify and listen to City Fires, which is the band that does the soundtrack for this game, which is awesome. Another
great element. Like, this is another game that I was really on the fence as this being my kind of game I wanted to champion as well. I was between this and Octahedron. I don't know what would be the difference. On any given day, I could go one way or the other, to be honest. 20XX is a really
Today
fantastic
you went
the wrong way. But John, why don't you wrap us up with the recommendations?
Yeah, so the game that I'm going to recommend for this year is Risk of Rain 2, which we first talked about on episode 19. And it is, I believe this was it coming out of early access. It's been early access. I think it
still is, technically. Is it still technically? There's still a couple gear symbols, or like those wrench symbols.
They're definitely still releasing content for it and still updating it. But this was its debut on the Switch, and it is a sequel to the roguelike game Risk of Rain, which was in itself a 2D roguelike where there was a lot of platforming, and there were different characters that controlled differently, but most of them, were firing projectiles, and you were trying to activate a teleporter that would get you to the next stage. And every time that you would activate a teleporter, you would summon in a boss. And the longer that you would play each level, it would increase in difficulty. And Risk of Rain 2 was an incredible game, I thought, that basically took all of those same components and seamlessly transitioned it into a 3D game.
That's nuts.
Which
It's incredibly seamless.
It's wild how those like skills that I had from the first game like basically transferred over like whole cloth.
Yeah, like other than having to aim with the second joystick, it is the same game.
Yeah, and the movement is so like seamless and involved, like the amount of dodging that you're doing or like the jumps that you're doing and all of the same power-ups that you had from the first game that carried over, where, you know, they're basically changing how you're approaching bosses or like gameplay. Like you'll run into something that will launch missiles every time that you interact with an object, or, you know, you'll get something that will heal you every time that you deal damage. And it's just all of these like components that they had in this 2D game that I loved so much and is now in this 3D game that I love so much. And I'm so pumped that like even there was an update like not too long ago.
Yeah, I just downloaded it.
Yeah. And just like I'm going to be playing this game for so much longer, just like that, being overjoyed at every little thing that they add.
Let's play it online.
Yeah, I was just going to say the online component, and I think maybe the original also had online, at least on different platforms. Certain platforms, I think it did, but even on the Switch, which was I think where we're all playing this, we were able to sync up. I know you and I played a little online. I don't think we've all three done it. Did we play it all, Randall? I don't think so.
No, I didn't get it until they released it physically.
That's right. We were waiting on the physical copy.
Nice.
Yeah. But you have it now, right?
I have it now. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, we definitely have to get on that because I really like the co-op. Just adds even
so
more
hectic
fun
and so fun. Just and getting swarmed and there's like bullets flying everywhere.
I feel like they do a nice job too of like ramping up the way the difficulty scales based on
time elapsing,
but also I feel like it scales a little based on people. Like when we would get to like a boss, like there would be 2 or 3 iterations of the boss, sometimes a little smaller, like minions. But like if you're playing single player, at least in my experience, it would always be just one boss to fight.
There would still be like the occasional bosses that would be like horde bosses. Okay. Where it would be multiple versions of like just incredibly strong enemies.
Yeah.
But like, the way that they work a lot in like multiplayer is like all of the power-ups are shared. So I don't think there are any more additional power-ups that are spawned. So like if you collect one, then I can't get it. So it kind of rations out there's this power creep that when you're playing single player where you get to be this one massively powerful person.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're playing like co-op, you kind of have to parse it out.
Almost communicate like, hey, okay, this power up makes more sense for the build you've got going on this run. It's just so fun, and I love the art style.
Yep.
I loved the original art style too, like really minimalist, like kind of zoomed out pixel art. But this is like, again, a little minimalist. It's got that cell shaded, kind of under detailed design, but it works.
Yeah,
it's like an under detailed design that gives it a lot of style and a little bit more character to the levels than the original game had. I feel like there's like that one like kind of snow base level with the fence around it. It just like has a little more like lived in kind of feel than the original game did, where it just felt like these kind of blank templates.
Because the first, I think, Risk of Rain was all procedurally generated levels.
They were like each world or each like zone had like 3 or 4 different levels that were exactly the same. The procedural generation, just like in Risk of Rain 2, would just be where the like pods or where the power-ups are located in the level or the portal.
Okay.
But the actual levels were the same. It would just be like one of 3 different layouts, I think.
Nice. But yeah, like you said, like in Risk of Rain 2, like all of the locations of everything, like the teleporter is always going to be at a different place. So you're not always heading to the same place. You're hunting around this like 3D level that you've known and you've played a couple times before, but you're still trying to figure out, okay, where are all the power-ups? Where are all the shrines? Where's the teleporter at? Yeah, it's just a really great way to explore it.
It does a great job of like encouraging you to experiment, or not even encouraging you, forcing you to experiment, because you just have to be like, okay, these are the power-ups I get, because like you mentioned, like the timer is counting up and the game is literally getting harder as time goes on. It has nothing to do with anything else other than how long you're taking. So And I'm very glad that you showed me, John, that like playing on the easier difficulties, again, not to be a total chump, but I just am more of a chump now than I used to be. And I'm happy to play a game on an easier setting, especially when the only difference from what I can gather and from what we talked about, like it just seems like that timer moves slower. So like you can just play the levels at a slightly more leisurely pace. It's not like the enemies have less health or anything like that. It's just that you can like actually play the first level and like farm a little for the power-ups and items and stuff instead of just being like, find the portal, activate the boss, because we gotta finish this level as fast as we can so that we can make progress. And I really like that. And I actually prefer that, playing in that mode, even though DJ, I know, respects me less for doing so.
Never respected you at all.
That's fair. That's fair.
All right. So what we're going to do next is we're going to give our resolutions for the upcoming year, where hopefully won't take the whole year to finish them.
You do have the whole year, though.
We do. Yes.
We are who we are, and it might take a little longer than we think, but hopefully sooner than later.
Yes.
A game that I'm resolving to play in the coming year that I've been wanting to play for a while and actually purchased and have on my Switch, but just haven't even booted it up yet, is Transistor, which is a game from the Supergiant, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think it was their game immediately following Bastion.
I think so as well. I think because it was that, and then Pyre. It was Bastion, then Transistor, then Pyre.
That sounds right.
And then Hades, which is their newest game.
But yes, it's always like I loved Bastion. Like it was one of my first indie games that I think I played. And like I've been ever since like Transistor was announced, I was like, yeah, this game looks great. I'm so excited to play it. And then I never did. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, let me know when you're going to play it, because it's sitting on not only my Switch, but also my PlayStation 4, and I've also never booted it on either system. I wasn't as keen on Bastion. I've actually played that twice, and I not all the way through, but I did beat it the second time I played it, and I just thought it was a little basic. I mean, I love the presentation, I love the narration, I love the art style, I love everything about it, except for the fact that I thought the game was just kind of generic, like the actual gameplay. But I think Transistor looks like it kind of takes that and like elevates some of those ideas. And it's not the same kind of gameplay, but it looks like it has that same isometric like action RPG kind of vibe, but adds a little more tactics into the combat from what I can tell.
Yeah.
And I let me know when you start playing that, because I'll play along with you for sure.
Will do.
DJ,
I guess I'm next.
Yeah, time to resolve.
My resolution for year 2020 is to play Deadbolt, which is another game by Hapu Games. I think you guys were telling me it was the one between Risk of Rain and Risk of Rain 2.
I believe so, yeah.
And to be honest, like it was a long time ago that Kevin, you and I had watched a trailer. And
yeah, it was like a year ago at least, yeah.
It wasn't.
It feels like it was before we did the podcast.
It was around the same time. Anyways,
regardless, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Just arguing.
It was this long ago.
But I really haven't looked into it since then, so my memory is hazy. But it's kind of like a 2D kind of like building clearing game. I don't
know. Looked like it had some stealth elements.
Yeah,
like it's an action game, but it looked like it had a little more sneaking around and maybe some puzzle solving or something.
Like a Hotline Miami meets Mark of the Ninja.
Yeah, kind of. That's a great.
Perfect. Thank you. But yeah, it was actually like the first game I had added to my wish list for the Switch, which is a very small list.
Yeah, DJ has like 3 or 4 games. I have like 200, like an idiot.
But it's only a $10 game, and I've just been like, I'll just wait till it goes on sale, and it hasn't gone on sale. But it's like a game I want to play. It's just like I need to just make myself play this.
And as we've mentioned, I know you haven't played a ton of Risk of Rain 2, but you and I have played a lot of Risk of Rain 1.
I would love Risk of Rain 2. It's $30.
We want to throw these guys some bones. So yeah. Well, why are you waiting for Risk of Rain to maybe dip a little from that $30? Maybe we can play some Deadbolt in the meantime.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Randall? What are you resolving to dip into this year?
My resolve will be spent trying to play Monster Boy in the Cursed Kingdom in 2020, which
nice.
I realize now is it looks like I'm shilling for FDG Entertainment because they also use Blossom Tales.
Also physically, it's coming out physical from Limited Run, Blossom Tales.
Yeah, I saw that. That's cool.
Yeah, good. I'm really happy for them because it seems like they're super excited. So,
and speaking of physical, Monster Boy in the Cursed Kingdom, I also own physically, but I have not even opened the shrink wrap on yet. No. So, just wanted to make sure I owned it because, like, I love the Monster Boy series personally.
Yeah.
Ever since what was it, Monster Boy on. Monster Boy and Monster World on Sega Genesis.
Was it Wonder Boy and Monster World? Is that the name of it?
God.
That game's so great. But it's good. Well, that franchise has such a horrible naming convention. Yes. We won't have to get into that, but it's like every game has 5 different names.
Yes, it does. Yes. And along those same lines, the main one that I've actually played through is Wonder Boy and the Dragon's Curse, aka Dragon's Trap, depending on which platform it got released on. But I played it through on TurboGrafx and loved that.
You really played the original, not the remake. Okay,
not the remake. Yeah.
Okay, I assumed you played because this Monster Boy and what is the one you're Monster Boy and the
Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom.
Yeah, because it seems like it took that style from the remake of Dragon's Trap and kind of took that and ran with it, but with all new characters, all new settings, all new whatever.
Brand new game, but yeah, still keeps that just like beautiful hand-drawn art style. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And they're bringing back like the Wonder Boy series creator to work on this. He also helped produce that remake of the Dragon's Trap. So this got great reviews, and like even if it got middling reviews, I was going to be playing this. But the fact that it got such good reviews, I'm like, oh my god, how have I not played this yet? So that will happen in 2020, I promise you.
Nice. Well, also, I guess everybody just let me know when you're playing the games you're going to play because I want to play all these games.
Yes.
But for the game that I am going to play, and I've been just putting this off for way too long, but I'm going to play Undertale. Because I mean, every time I see it, it's one of those. I think I've even mentioned on the podcast. I'm always on the fence of like, it seems like a game I would love, so I should just buy the physical copy. But then I'm like, it's $30, or I can download it for 10. Mm-hmm. Or it was on the PC Game Pass when I had that, and I don't think it's on the Xbox version for whatever reason, but. It's just a game that I know I need to play, and I'm almost positive I'm going to like and probably even love it. Yep. And I don't want to like set my bar too high, but I know when it's like, okay, this just looks like something I would really enjoy. DJ's been pestering me to play it for years. John's been maybe not pestering, but nudging me to play it. Everyone in the world has been. I mean, everyone knows this is a great game.
Been
so
pestering me.
And I don't know
everyone
about
just
you, Kevin,
won't stop
but I
bothering
know
me.
Like practically nothing about this game still, and I've done that on purpose.
I know.
I can't believe.
So you've also not played it.
Not played it. Not okay. One bit. And it's another game that I own physically because apparently I own everything physically. When you play this, I will also play it.
Yeah, let's be in touch on that for sure. Because I do know a little bit about like the battle mechanics and the different approaches you can take. I guess I don't want to spoil anything in case you're. But yeah, I just know it's up my. It's an 8-bit pixel art kind of deal. Great music from the little bits I've heard. And yeah, it just got that retro aesthetic. And I do love this. I guess I'm not going to spoil it, but I like this mechanic and gimmick. That's kind of underselling it. I don't want to call it a gimmick, but there's like a couple different approaches you can take to the combat in this game.
Randall has removed his headphones,
and I'm excited to explore those options. So yeah. Randall, headphoneless.
I'm back.
I didn't spoil anything. I don't think, anyways. Being that I don't actually know much either. Spoilers. So, but yeah, I think we can pretty much wrap it up there almost this week. Although we do have one more game that we kind of want to champion. We kind of wanted to have one game that we were going to say, hey, this is our Pursuing Pixels, not game of the year, but whatever you want to call it. Like this is the game that we as a whole are championing. But we had a really tough time landing on one that we all played. So one thing that we're going to starting right now, is Randall, John, and myself. We all really, really loved Chasm, and that was kind of the game that we were championing like, let's make that our game, and DJ's like, hey,
I fucked it all up.
We all like were picking that as like our second choice, is like, well, I was either gonna pick, this game or Chasm.
Yeah.
And like one of us didn't want to take it, and if we wanted to champion another game. So
yeah, and for like I bring this up all the time on the podcast, but these video games just, no matter how popular or unpopular they are, they just come and go. And especially this game, just like it's like it didn't get a fair shake.
No.
I don't know. It's got such middling reviews, and it is such a polished, fantastic game.
It's great.
If you're into Metroidvanias, I can't imagine not liking it. So
yes.
So we're gonna kind of put DJ on the spot, and he is going to play Chasm at some point in time. And whenever he gets around to that, then he is going to be able to throw the ball back in one of our courts, like, hey, John or Kevin or Randall, whoever, you need to, or all of you need to play this game.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that, because I like being put on the spot, and I also like getting out of my comfort zone, even though I do play a game for 10 minutes and go, not for me. But I still like the fact that I gave it a try, I guess. Right. I don't know.
I've got some ideas for what I could toss at you guys.
Beat Chasm first.
Nice. Well, I'm excited to see, because I had so many games to pick from for this like resolution. I mean, I haven't played Kingdom Hearts 3. I haven't played the last guy. I mean, I could just, my backlog is never ending.
Yeah.
So, and if anything, I'm just making it longer every day,
as we do.
So, but I don't know. Does anybody else have anything to add before we close it out for the year, or we good to wrap it up there?
Thanks for listening, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. And as always, you can find us online at pursuingpixels.com. We're on Twitter, Instagram, pursuingpixels@gmail.com if you want to drop us a line.
Yes.
And we'd love to hear from you. And we're looking forward to talking some more video games in 2020. And until then, we'll catch you next year. Take care.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye. None of these are very good. Poinsettia's a decent.
All right. Nice and
Partridge
for your dog.
Partridge
in a pear tree. Pursuing partridges in pear trees.
Even though the 12 Days of Christmas is a fucking terrible song.
It's awful.
Oh my God.
No referencing.
I share an office with somebody who listens to Christmas music, and that's one of the 10 songs that they listen to. And it just,
if they're not putting on like Phil Spector Christmas or Charlie Brown or something, like, get the fuck out of here.
Yes.
Muppet Christmas Carol original soundtrack.
I don't know. There's some weak tracks on that too, if I'm being honest.
There's Marley.
That Marley and Marley shit is weak, dude.
What?
Christmas
Get
Carol.
out of here.
What is this movie?
Christmas Carol? Muppet Christmas Carol.
Oh, okay.
I can make that
Caine
song.
is
Come on, man.
Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yeah, that's okay.
There's Marley and Marley. Woo. Come on. The
Muppets are so great, though. I do love the Muppets.
Not good. I love the Muppets. That's coming from a place of love.